Morning and welcome. Welcome to Fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. This is a live stream that broadcasts around the world, and I really want to welcome all of you that are dealing with a government entity called CPS, which I call the Child Protection System. This is an interactive live stream, meaning that you can go ahead and interact with me either by sending emojis or by texting me a question or comment, or you can call in, or you can also join me as a guest. There's lots of ways you can interact with this live stream. I'm here to help you. Now, I work for the law offices of Vincent W. Davis, who is a very specialized attorney. He's been fighting CPS for 39 years. He is trained in family law, juvenile law, and dependency law. And he does get your kids back. He's an expert. He's also a trial attorney, and he has a lot of experience, such as even doing lawsuits. When the case is over, he'll do a civil lawsuit and win millions of dollars. So he's the right person to retain as your attorney for a CPS matter. What I mean by retain an attorney, this is the most complex and the hardest agency you ever fight in your life. Not all CPS is bad, but there's a lot of them out there that are bad, and you don't know if you're going to encounter one. I am, too, a victim of CPS, where my children were trafficking into foster care, where they were stolen from us, when they were not in danger, but they were taken from us. They didn't believe in family reunification. They did everything they could to disrupt us. It wasn't until I hired an attorney, who's Mr. Davis, that I got anywhere. And I want to welcome Child. Thank you for coming in, Child. Child is a family member of a family that's fighting CPS, and they do have Vincent Davis as their attorney. They're from LA County, California. Now I'm on twice a day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning, and then on the weekends at 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm also on Monday through Sunday at 7 p.m. These are 1-hour live streams, and it's all on the Pacific coast of California. I'm on Pacific Standard Time. That's the time zone. So those are the hours that I'm on. I've been doing this now for 18 months. I've talked to over 1,000 people, and these people from all walks of life. And also, I've talked to 21 countries, and I've also talked to somebody in each of the 50 states, as well as the District of Columbia. These countries have been Indonesia, Bangladesh, India, Saudi Arabia, Libya, then over to Africa, been Liberia, been Sudan, Rwanda, Mozambique, and then the several provinces in South Africa. Then up to Europe, England, Scotland, and Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then over across the pond to North America, it's been the 4 provinces in Canada, again, the 50 states, and the District of Columbia. And then south of the border, it's been Mexico. Then down to South America, north of Brazil, on the East Coast, has been Grenada. Then across the South Pacific to New Zealand, and then the land down under, Australia, 2 states there I've talked to. So that's a lot of people I've talked to, and they've even called in. The country code for South Africa is 27, England's 44. And the area codes in Mexico and Canada are like our area codes. So it is a welcome place to sit here and discuss your issues. Now, I'm not an attorney. I am a married, loving father. I've helped raise 6 children. 3 older children have their families, their own, doing quite well. Then I had my 3 younger children that were attacked by CPS, mercifully full. It started out with 5 years of allegations by my in-laws. My wife's mother and father, 3 sisters, and a brother were constantly calling every week and making up stories that weren't true. And for 5 years, we endured this. Then finally, they called the police. And the police tracked me down and forced me to come to my home and open it up. And they brought with them a whole group of people, about 13 people, 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective. All these people had one thing in mind. They need to find something they can charge you with. And they thought by finding I don't know what it was, a vendetta or what their problem was, but it was really bad. And I did not know about the laws. Like you have civil rights laws that protect you. You do not have to open your home. You don't have to let them in. You don't have to talk to social workers or the police. The only time that you ever have to is if they have a court order warrant, meaning that they went to a judge and got specific instructions on what they want to do and what they want to search. You got to make sure that warrant is legit. They use a lot of old warrants to try to buffalo you. CPS is corrupt. They are not what you think they ought to be. Now, not all CPS is bad. There are good CPS and bad CPS, but it's hard to find from them. But I'm telling you, my experience with the CPS for the 3 years they stole my children would have been a nightmare and a half. And I'm an educated, loving man, and I have over 42 years of marriage experience and a lot of life skills. Unfortunately, I lost my job at the age of 60 through no fault of my own in 2010. And it's been a very difficult time to get work because of CPS involvement, because what's happened is that the story's made up. And I was trying to fight this using the court-appointed attorneys, which is a mistake. You don't want to use court-appointed attorneys. They're not trained in juvenile law, family law, dependency law. They have no experience. They have a caseload that will fight, that will not fight for your case. They're just too busy. They won't meet outside of court. So it is a hard thing to deal with. It is a hard thing to deal with. Now, my mouth is dry. I know it's a hard thing you're going through, and I'm here to help you. I'm here to talk about the news, the topics, your topics, whatever you want to text me. Now, there's a few things that you can do really well in this room. Besides send me smiley faces, thumbs up, hearts, or stars, please check the follow button and review me. Also, if you want to be notified when I'm on, check the notification. Now, you can also, as I said earlier, text me a comment or a question that pertains to CPS. Please state your first name, your city or county, state, and country, because there are people from other countries. Also, please tell me about your CP case from the beginning to the end. So anytime you text in for the first time, do that. I try to remember, I have regulars in my room, 25, to 30 people that come in here regularly twice a day. Also, you can be a guest on my live stream. To be a guest on my live stream, all you have to do is contact my show producer, Grace. And Grace will help you. Her email is grace@vincentwdaves.com. You pick one of my 14 shows, my morning Sunday show, my evening Saturday show, whatever it is. You pick it, send it to her, and she'll give you the link to StreamYard. Now, StreamYard is the application I'm using, and I broadcast on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called CPS Defense Attorney Vincent Davis. And all the Facebooks, there's 7 of these Facebook channels that will channel into the YouTube. So if you're into one of them, that's great. You found me on Facebook, and I really appreciate that. Now, to be a guest, you have a chance to talk. Also, I can take 9 of you at one time. So that's a big plus there. You pick one of my 14 shows, email it to Grace at Vincent W. Davis, and she'll send you the link to get on StreamYard. If you get knocked off, use the link again. It's good for that show. Now, another way you can interact this is a call in. I'll leave my number there. It's 626-698-0990. That's my office number. You can call me direct, and I can help you. So those are 2 important ways that you can, interact with this live stream. Now, as a bonus for either calling in or calling in or being a guest on my show, all you would get something special, and that is a chance to talk to a real CPS attorney, a person that can fight CPS, has a proven track record. Again, his name is Vincent Davis. And he'll talk to you free for 15 minutes. Free for 15 minutes. And he'll answer any of your questions or concerns for those 15 minutes. You make your list of questions, prioritize them, and ask away. That's only if you're a guest or you call in. So there's an advantage of calling in. Not only to talk about your case, but you'll qualify for a free private Zoom consultation with Mr. Davis. Also, as a guest, the same thing is offered there too. Now, I do want to point out a grandparent guide and other resources that can be found at a website. You need to put https:// then type in stand.store/attorney VWD. They'll take you to a web page. They'll have resources. They'll have different kinds of packaging for representation, and it will have other sources on there besides the Grandparents Guide. The Grandparents Guide is the new guide that's out. It's a guide for step-by-step to get guardianship of your grandkids. It's a great guide. It's $9.99, but with my discount, you get it for half off. And that is capital P, capital A, capital C, capital E. That's PACE 50, all capital letters. And you'll get it for half of the $9.99. So that is a good thing there. So go to that website, the stand.store/attorney VWD. Don't forget to put the HTTP in front of it. And I have another website. I thought it was there, but I have to create it, I guess. HTTPS Vincent W. Davis.com. Okay, this website, https:// VincentWDavis.com, is the home website. It'll have everything about his office, who he is, about what they do, and everything. That's a real important website to have up there. Also, I have a number, 888-888-6582. That's for you to call in and speak to our receptionist. Make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. It's really important that you say that. Also, if you talk to Mr. Davis, make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. So that phone number is the office. He has other lawyers who help with other matters such as real estate, criminal, divorce, the workplace, anything, injuries. He will help you on there. Now I'm going to put my phone number back up because it's important. Let me put it there. Okay. Thank you for all your prayers, child. That's very nice in there. Do you have a question, child, today from LA County? Do you have something I can help you with? It'd be nice if you could tell me a question so I can answer it for you. Now, there's lots of topics out there. We have my 5 rules that I've learned. I wish I had when my case was active. Maybe would have not lost one of my children. Yes, I did lose someone there. You see, dealing with CPS, you trust them. But I had a social worker that had not even a high school education that committed perjury while testifying in court. And she lied. And Vincent Davis caught her in her lies. And she wanted to, she wanted revenge. So she told us parents, she'll never see her daughter again. So what she did, she instructed our daughter, who was 12 years at the time, to emancipate from your parents. That means divorce your mom and your dad and your brothers, her 3 brothers, and her 2 sisters, her grandparents, both sets, her aunts and uncles and cousins. The whole family was divorced from her, and she's only 12. She was further told to remove her name, her beautiful name, and her middle name was Honolulu, a place in Kauai. That's so beautiful. I love her dearly, and it's so sad because when this social worker did the retaliation, she did it with pure malice. And she can be sued for actions. I just did not have the money to pay the retainer. I know what it is to have the money to get an attorney. I tried my court-appointed attorneys, and it was terrible. I tried to fight them pro se, and that was even worse. They did retaliation. When an agency's gone bad, and they've now found out that money's more important than the lives of the family or the children, it doesn't help when the president comes along, Clinton, that signs into law the Incentive Act, which is telling CPS agencies, the government agencies, to adopt the children in foster care rather than family reunification. The reason being is family reunification takes a long time. Sometimes it takes a year, 2 or 3, or even longer. And the incentive said that CPS would be rewarded if they get the child adopted into foster care. So now they had a carrot hanging over their head where they get $10,000 to $20,000 bonus for adopting the children, not for family reunification. There are horror stories of how bad CPS is. All you do is check the news. A child that was put in the freezer was killed by its mother. A child in the custody of a social worker on an outing, and this is in Africa, was eaten by a crocodile because she wasn't supervising the child. There's a lot of horror stories. A child that was being supervised by a social worker, and they were having an outing, and the children were playing in what's called a pit ball pit, where they have styrofoam balls put in there, and they jump on each other and the balls and stuff. Unfortunately, this child who could barely walk was placed in there laying on his back, and the children stomped on him and didn't know he was down there. That was supervision by social workers. If that doesn't turn your stomach, then you should think about the pink ladies in Prescott, Arizona. They were white ladies that had been working a long time in CPS and decided to get pink t-shirts. And on the front, they stenciled professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they said, parents, do you know where your children are at? And they parade around wearing these pink t-shirts, not to support breast cancer awareness, but to support the abduction of children. And they paraded in Walmart and Costco and Kmart and Target and Sears and Penny's, Best Buys. I could go on and on. Well, they were caught, and they were immediately fired, as well as the director of the CPS. It was called the Department of Children's Services. And the director was fired too. That left a department with one person left to handle it. And sad to say, that one person, is really too much. But this is a social worker. Now, not all social workers are bad, but there's enough bad ones around that it's hurt. There's over 1,000, because I've talked to over 1,000 people. I know firsthand. Now, we have people in this room, and I can try to get up some comments. Oh, hi, Little Nugget. Good to see you. Good morning, Little Nugget. Little Nugget is a Native American Indian from the San Diego area, I believe, if I remember her correctly. And she's called in, and she had a terrible case with her children. And what's new, Little Nugget? Can you share anything with me, Little Nugget? And child, I know the importance of prayer is very important to you and so forth, and to us. But is there something we can talk to about CPS? Something that we can, ask a question so I can look it up or find it for you. I'm using my son's computer. God was a blessing. He allowed me to use it because that's the kind of son I have. And I'm very grateful, but it is hard because it's not a very high-end computer. It's very slow, and it's not working as well as I thought it would be. It's good for school, but for broadcasting purposes and for that thing, I need a high-end computer there. The camera seems to be working okay. It's nice and clear. My voice seems and my lips seem to be moving, and that part's working good. All my topics are on my other computer. All my CPS, so I have to start from scratch to find topics. Okay, and let me see here. CPS News. Okay, well, to top stories. Uh, This one, it was really quite interesting. This latest news here. This is in Fort Worth. That's in the state of Texas. And a mom says CPS was called after a teacher mistaken the daughter's birthmarks for bruises. Um, there's actually a little video on it. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but probably not. A Fort Worth mother is speaking out after what she says was a misunderstanding about her daughter's birthmarks that led to a child abuse investigation. Stephanie McCullough, whose 7-year-old daughter attends Western Hills Primary School in the Fort Worth, said she found out on Friday, March 28th, when her daughter Astrid told her she had seen the school nurse the day before. She said she went to the nurse's office, McCullough said. I was confused, but I didn't know if something happened in school. Now, the North Texas teacher notices dark spots. A teacher had noticed dark spots on Ashton's back and suspected child abuse. By Monday, Child Protection Service. Now, I want to stop there for a moment. A teacher is a mandated reporter that has to, because of law and her job, to report child abuse. They take special classes learning how to recognize it and how to report child abuse. They're what's called a mandated reporter. Now, there's lay people that report CPS abuse and neglect, and there's mandated reporters. These are your professional people. So apparently this teacher thought the dark spots were suspected child abuse. By Monday, Child Protection Services had contacted McCullough to investigate. It's still hard for me to talk about, McCullough says. I was really scared. McCullough says the mark on Ashton's backs are magnolia spots, a birthmark more common in children with darker skin tones. She had that one on her back since she was born, she said. Child Protection Services calls. After receiving the CPS call, McCullough immediately took her daughter to the doctor, who confirmed the spots were birthmarks. And document that is the bravest move. We have to take immediate action because CPS, and I guess the CPS in Fort Worth, Texas, is bad. They're one of the bad rogues out there. They jump to conclusion, probably because they know they're going to get money. So she went to a doctor, her pediatrician, and got documentation. In a statement, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, which is the CPS organization in Texas, said standard protocol requires investigators to speak with the family, school staff, and medical professionals to rule out potential abuse. Now, Fort Worth did not respond to a request for comment. This is the CPS organization in Fort Worth. Nothing to hide. For McCullough, however, the damage was already done. Just like I told the CPS worker, I have nothing to hide. I know what kind of parent I am, she said. I have 2 other children. I love all my kids. She said she chose to speak out in hopes of helping other families who might go through something similar through this. If this can just help one person, one family, that all this matters to me, McCullough said. Now, calls for a better educated Texas school staff. She's now calling on schools to better education their staff on how to identify magnolia spots to avoid mistaking them for signs of abuse. Even going to school now, she's nervous and scared because she thinks she's going to get snatched. McCullough said, if educators and administrators were better informed what magnolia spot is, they'd be able to tell the difference between that and a bruise. Well, I've been educated. I'll remember that. So anyway, I would like to share that article. And hello, NYP. So glad to hear from you. NYP is Alicia Alicia, and she is from California City, California. And her case dealt with a child being born with rickets, and they didn't know that. And she had 11 breaking bones, and CPS jumped to conclusion and said the parents were physically abusing their daughter. So they're fighting that case. And I think they're getting along. I don't know where you're at on your case, but I think eventually they'll have a doctor's subpoena that tells them that they have a disease and so forth. Now I have Little Nugget in the room, and I have NYP in the room, and of course Child's been in the room since the start of the show with a lot of praying for us. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to hear from them. Otherwise, I'll keep continuing on looking at topics to talk about. I'm here to help you. So this is your chance to get advice on how to fight CPS. I know from firsthand experience. I know what I had to go through and what I had to do and so forth. One thing is nice to have a computer that doesn't jump around. My laptop was hitting its last days, and there's a broken crack, a hairline crack somewhere on the motherboard, and I have to replace the motherboard. You might as well buy a new computer. It's 7 years old. And the new computers are already at i9 level, so you need to get something that's fast that will work. But they're expensive. They're expensive. You need a lot of RAM and so forth. So you need as much RAM and, of course, a good hard drive, and then you need your video card there. And the TV, the 10,000 groups makes good one like a 1070, 1080, 1090. Those are all good video cards. Anyway, I am trying to work at getting that up. I had started another job where I'm making that job. The only problem is with that job, I was paid the first couple weeks, but now they owe me 2 weeks. So it's really hard when you have to beg for your paycheck to get paid. I mean, you shouldn't be in a position where you have to beg, but it's sad. So I'm trying to get money to buy a new computer, which would help me with my job. So it's a win-win for everybody. But if you don't get paid, how can you buy it? How can you buy it? You know, it's like you do all this work for nothing. And I don't mind doing work with CPS for nothing because they do need help. To me, it's a terrible agency. And so I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from. But anyway, that was shows you how CPS jumps to conclusions, and mandated reporters are too. Now, I already talked about the CPS case where a toddler was found dead in the freezer, and there's multiple times that parents called in. Now, here's some good news in Texas. It said CPS removal fell by over one half. Abuse inducted children deaths plummeted in Texas since 2018. Texas removed 20,000 children from their parents in 2018, which plummeted to 9,226 years later. Now, removal by Child Protection Service in Texas went down by 55% from 2018 to 2024, while simultaneously the number of children dying from abuse also decreased by 53%. 5 years after the state established additional protection for parents and families through refining the removal and investigation process. Texas removed 20,000 children from their parents in 2018, which plummeted to 9,226 years later. Now, the sum total of children in Texas foster care dropped by 47% from the same time period, while the number of Texas children awaiting a home through adoption went from 43%, the state's lowest ever 6-month and 1 year recision rates, according to the Family Freedom Project. Senator Brian Hughes and Republican James Franklin crafted and passed legislation during the 87 legislation sessions that heavily reformed CPS, particularly through adding more due process rights for parents. Oh, I do like hearing that, due process. That's a good improvement. It amended the Texas Family Code definition of neglect to mean an act or failure to act by a person responsible for child care, custody, or welfare. So it means an act or a failure to act. That act results in the harm to the child or that creates immediate danger to the child's physical health or safety. It's undeniable that children are traumatized whenever they're removed from their homes. There are, of course, occasions where removal is necessary because of the imminent threat to the health and safety of children. Well, in California, there's no imminent threat to my children. They're in a private school. One of them was in a private high school, then a middle school thing. They're in school, so how they're in danger. Hughes and Frank said upon the introduction of legislation in 2020. However, it's equally true that too many Texas children are removed from their homes unnecessary. Yes, there we go. The rights of the children and family are trampled upon. I agree wholeheartedly on that statement. Hughes and Frank has determined that harm stays with these families forever. I am still harmed by what CPS did to my family and how I can't see my daughter, who's 22 now. That is so sad. Our legislation would clearly standards for the CPS caseworkers, protect due process for parents, and ensure families here in Texas remain united when possible. It is true, the best parents are the biological parents to raise children. They should not be away to adoption and foster care to get that extra money that they're going to get. That's wrong. That is wrong. The Texas legislation, the courts have taken major strides in strengthening due process for family while still safeguarding children, said Jeremy Newman, vice president of the FFP, in response to significant drops in child removal and foster care containments. This data confirms what Reform's advocate has long argued: ensuring due process is a protection does not mean compromises children's safety. In fact, the two go in hand, new included. Frank and Hughes also have teamed up with, once again, in the 89 legislation session to pass legislation to increase protection for parents with Senate Joint Resolution, which uses strict scrutiny to protect parents' right to raise their children. The resolution would amend the Texas Constitution to add, a parent has the inherent right to exercise care, custody, and control of the parent's child, and to make decisions for the upbringing of the child. That is so important. A parent has the inherent right. Wow, that's great. The state or political subdivision of the state should not interfere with the rights of a parent described by subsection A of the subject unless interference essential to further compelling government interests and narrow tailoring to accomplish the compelling government interests. Critics of the bills have raised concern that it gives the government additional controls over children, which supporters of SRJ theory argue that strict scrutiny is the strongest protection available under Texas law. If the resolution passes, the language will end to go to the voters for November 4th for election. That was definitely That was definitely interesting. Okay, hello room, wake up. Child, do you have anything to say? Any questions to ask? Um, NYP, what's the latest? What's the latest? And Kelly Fishner, you're new and you're from Chicago. Glad to meet you, Kelly, and you're checking in. What is your case about? What questions do you have me? Welcome, Kelly Fisher. And Little Nugget, what's the latest on your case? You can tell me too. I'd love to hear more. All of you, I'm open for questions or comments about things. Now, we have about 20 minutes left of this podcast. So I'd really like to hear from you. I'd really like to hear from you. And I really am here to support you, to tell you that what you're trying to do is good. You're trying to protect your family and do family reunification, get your children back. But you need to know the laws. You need to know your constitutional rights and your civil rights. You're entitled to legal representation through all facets of your case. Now, what all that means is my rule number 3 is you don't need to open the door. You don't need to answer the door. And I say that meaningfully because there's been too many people that have answered the door and shot dead. It is sad. And I guess when you answer the door and the officer shoots you, that's wrong. I don't know why officers can't shoot you in the foot or arm if they have to disarm you, but still, the person comes to the door because you're pounding. You may not have said it right. This sheriff in Gainesville, from his body cam footage, didn't say the right words. I see, first of all, if you're a policeman and you're going to come to a door, you want to be crouched down low to the side. You don't want to be standing in front of the door. And then as the door opens, you peer in and take assess of the situation. If the person has a gun, you need to disarm them. And you can shoot them in the foot or the hand. That'll disarm them. Take them to the floor and then handcuff them. And then do your search. But rule number 3 is do not talk to social workers or police and don't let them in. Try to tell them you have an attorney and you want your attorney present when you're discussing this with the policeman. That's your legal constitutional right to have an attorney present. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to say a word. Also, you don't have to talk to them. And if you're outside and you encounter them, they hand you a warrant, you need to look at it closely because it may be a fake warrant. For instance, they don't show dates on the weekend. If they show a date on the weekend or a weekday holiday, then you know it's bogus because court isn't in session on holidays during the week or on holidays on the weekend. And also, if you tell them that you can't talk right now because you need to get your attorney, that's a good way to get out of that situation. And get an attorney. Get someone that can represent you. Someone that's trained in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. Those are the 3 areas that CPS will go to take your child away from your family. Now, that rule number 3 also includes um, medical trafficking. It's been apparent lately that anybody that takes his child to urgent care or the emergency room, they suddenly lose their child because they do things they're not supposed to do or say things. CPS workers hang out, social workers hang out at emergency room or urgent care. Their whole purpose is to hear something that can take your child away. Another form of medical trafficking is when you go in to have your baby and a social worker walks in with the police. They're not supposed to be in your birthing room. They have to have a warrant to take your child from you, especially at birth. That's a horrible time by them. So be careful. Say no to police. Say no to social workers. Get them out of your room. You need to have time with your newborn. And if something is testing positive drug wise, they can discuss that later, but not during uh, your aftercare of your child that just recently born. So be careful of medical trafficking. Now, I have a rule number 2 that I didn't talk about. It's the documentation. Make sure you document everything. It will help you. You need to have a notebook. You have to have a notebook to collect all your documents, to hole punch them, and then have dividers, subject dividers who divide all your documents so you can figure out which is which. You should also put in that notebook any testing, drug testing should be in that notebook. Um, there's lots of things. There's one really important document called the incident timeline log. That is a very valuable document. That's something you create. The first line, you put the location and the phone number. And if it's in person, you just put it in person. Then you put in the date and time and then the people involved. That goes on the first line. And the second line, you make a summary of what the incident was all about. The third line, you put the outcome of the incident. Again, it's a summary. But documents are so important there because you need to prove your case and they be used in court. And you'll forget things in 6 months or whatever. So you need to make documents for a long, long, long time. Now I have the, a little bit left of my live stream. I started late only because I had a hard time signing on. Not necessary to the StreamYard, but you have to have the computer I'm using is my son's. He has it geared the way he likes it, so I'd be careful not to change it. But he doesn't use Google. He uses, I think, Firefox or one of these other things. He has a whole different aspect of how he wants to do something. Now, if I had known these rules I had, the documents, the attorney to say no, I would never have been in the situation I am. I would have never lost my daughter. So you have to be careful of who you talk to and how you represent yourself because you're in a situation where they're at an advantage and their goal may be all millions of dollars. So, yeah, it's $1 trillion business. It's $1 trillion business. Now, rule number 4 is an easy one. That's the hierarchy of your words for your searching. Try to use Google to do your search as a browser, and try to list your city and your state. And if you're from outside of the United States, put your country. Then put the letters CPS, which will find everything is about CPS. And so with this hierarchy of words, after the CPS, you can be more specific and put what you're looking for, like an attorney, a juvenile law, family law, dependency attorney. And so that's one way you can do that search there. Again, I ask everybody in my room, child, you've been doing a lot of praying, and I appreciate it. I believe in God, but we need to talk about Pacifics. You need to talk about CPS issues. And I think when you talk, I knew it's helping you relieve this thing, but you have to let other people ask questions too. Again, I ask anything from NYP. Hello there. Hello, Kelly Fisher from Chicago. I'd like to know what else questions you have. Also, a little nugget too. Little nugget I like to too. So I'm open up for questions. My time is running low. My time is running low. And I like to help you. I like to help you here. And my last rule is you need to gather all your important documents, birth certificates, shot records, your children's grades reports. Make copies of everything, put them in a folder, and keep it with your notebook. Your driver's license, your birth certificate, your marriage license, all those important documents, make copies and put them in a big envelope and keep it with your notebook. So those are the 5 rules. Get an attorney. Do your documents. Say no to social workers. Don't let them in your home. Don't let them take your newborn baby. Research the internet. Spend 60, 80 hours there. Try to have the right format to do that. And then gather all your documents. Those are simple rules. And if I'd known them, I would have been better off. But I've developed them over talking on here for 17 months. That's just a long time. That's over a year. A year and 5 months, something like that. Wow, that's a long time. Well, I'm going to wind down the show because it's after 11 o'clock and it's time to close. I look forward to seeing you tonight. I'll be on at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Try to have some questions to ask me, or maybe there's a topic you'd like me to talk about. I'd gladly help you out there. So I want you to have a great day and keep fighting for your kids. Don't give up. Do not give up. There'll be a way that you can get your kids back. God bless you all. And this is Bob Pace signing off.